Welcome, dear dreamer, to Evernight Stories. This is your time now, a quiet moment just for you to let go of the day and drift into gentle rest. As you listen, allow yourself to settle into comfort. Let your body grow heavy, your breath slow and steady, and your thoughts soften like clouds passing across the night sky. Tonight's story will take you to a place hidden from ordinary eyes, a secret garden that awakens only at midnight. Here, the stars do not shine only above us. They bloom like flowers, scattered across branches, woven into the grass, glowing softly in the hush of the night. In this garden, dreams are planted, nurtured and cared for, so that every weary soul may find peace. And tonight, you will walk there, guided gently toward the starry blossoms of rest. So close your eyes if you wish, and allow the quiet rhythm of this tale to carry you deeper and deeper into stillness, into calm, into sleep. I could not sleep tonight. The little village where I lived had long since grown quiet. The lanterns in the windows had faded one by one until only shadows filled the streets. Yet I found myself awake, wandering softly beneath the silver wash of moonlight. The air was cool, gentle against my skin, carrying the faint scent of lavender and smoke. I walked slowly, my footsteps hushed on the worn cobblestones. Each step seemed to echo with a softness that lulled me, as though the village itself was whispering, "Rest, rest." My thoughts drifted like loose threads. I did not cling to them. I let them float away as the night guided me further. My shoulders softened, my breath began to slow, deep and calm, like the rhythm of the night around me. At the edge of the square, I noticed something unusual. Beyond the old fountain, where ivy climbed the stone walls, a narrow path stretched into the darkness. It shimmered faintly, as if dusted with powdered silver. I had never noticed it before. For a long moment, I stood still, listening. The village behind me slumbered, peaceful. Ahead of me, the glowing path seemed to beckon, a silent invitation. My heart stirred with quiet curiosity. I took a step forward. The cobblestones gave way to soft earth, cool beneath my feet. The sound of crickets rose gently, mingling with the hush of leaves overhead. I walked deeper into the quiet, each step guiding me away from the world I knew into something softer, calmer, quieter still. The further I went, the more the air seemed to change. It grew lighter, filled with a faint fragrance, sweet and unfamiliar, like blossoms that only opened in the hours of midnight. I inhaled deeply, and a wave of calm spread through me, melting the last of the day's restlessness. I followed the silver path as it wound gently among the trees. Their branches arched above me, forming a living canopy. Stars shone faintly through the gaps like tiny lanterns hung just for me. I slowed my pace, letting the silence wrap around me. The forest was alive, but not with noise. Instead, it was alive with stillness. Every breath, every rustle of leaves seemed part of a greater rhythm, a rhythm that encouraged me to let go. I paused by a small clearing. The grass sparkled faintly, as though the dew itself was touched with starlight. I reached down, brushing my fingertips across a blade of grass. It shimmered softly, glowing for a heartbeat before dimming again. The path stretched onward, glowing faintly. I felt drawn to it, as though it held a promise, a secret waiting at its end. My heart beat slowly, calmly, as I continued to walk. With each step, my body felt heavier, not with weariness, but with rest. My arms hung loose at my sides. My shoulders had let go of their tightness. Even my thoughts had grown quiet, as though the world within me was following the hush of the world around me. The silence was not empty. It was full of something gentle, like a lullaby without words. And so I followed, deeper into the night, deeper into the soft calm that cradled me. The path glowed a little brighter, guiding me forward. I knew in some quiet part of myself that wherever it was leading, I was meant to find it. The silver path carried me deeper into the forest, winding gently among tall, ancient trees. Their trunks rose like pillars in a silent cathedral, and the canopy above filtered the moonlight into soft patterns that danced across the ground. I moved slowly, unhurried, as though the path itself asked me to linger. Each step grew quieter, softer, until it felt like I was gliding rather than walking. My breath had become calm, steady, in rhythm with the hush of the forest night. And then I saw it. Ahead, in the shadowy stillness, a faint glow shimmered, a doorway of sorts, though no walls stood around it. Two arching trees bent gracefully toward one another, their branches entwined high above. Vines draped down like silver threads, and woven among them were tiny blossoms that glowed as though touched by starlight. It looked like a gate made not by human hands, but by the gentle patience of time and night itself. I paused for a long moment, gazing at it. The air around the archway seemed to hum softly, almost like a lullaby sung without words. I felt it in my chest, in the slowing of my heartbeat, in the way my eyelids grew heavy as I stood before it. I took a deep breath. The air was cool, fragrant, filled with the sweetness of unseen flowers. As I exhaled, I felt the last threads of the day unwind, drifting away like mist dissolving in dawn light. I stepped closer. The vines shimmered as I brushed past them, each blossom pulsing with gentle light, as though recognizing me, welcoming me. Crossing beneath the archway was like stepping from one world into another. On the other side, I found myself standing in a vast, luminous garden. The ground sparkled with dew that glowed faintly, each drop reflecting a fragment of the stars above. The grass was soft, bending like silk beneath my feet. Trees with wide, sheltering branches reached high into the sky, their leaves dark and glossy, cradling blossoms that shone like tiny constellations. Everywhere I looked, there was starlight. It clung to the petals of flowers that bloomed silently in the night. It shimmered in the air, drifting like fireflies. It spread across the path ahead, leading deeper and deeper into this otherworldly sanctuary. I walked slowly, drinking it all in. The deeper I went, the more I felt a sense of ease spreading through me, like a soft blanket wrapping around my shoulders. My thoughts no longer stirred or wandered. They rested, quiet, as though the garden had gathered them up and hushed them gently to sleep. The air carried whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind through the leaves, but then I realized it was something softer, like fragments of dreams, murmured by the garden itself. They were not words exactly, but impressions of peace, of rest, of comfort. I let the whispers wash over me. I let them sink into my breath, my heartbeat, my very bones. Each one seemed to say, "You are safe. You are welcome. You are home." Ahead, the path opened into a clearing where a silver fountain bubbled softly. Its water glowed as though it had been mixed with moonlight. I sat on the edge of its stone rim for a moment, dipping my fingers into the cool stream. The ripples spread outward, scattering reflections of the stars. A calm smile touched my lips without me realizing it. For the first time in many nights, I felt no trace of restlessness. The garden's stillness had become my own. I rose again, following the path onward. My steps carried me deeper, toward the heart of the star garden, where something unseen seemed to wait for me, gentle, patient, eternal. As I wandered deeper into the star garden, the path narrowed and wound gently between beds of glowing blossoms. Each pledge shone softly, their petals opening and closing with a rhythm that felt almost like breathing. Some glowed in hues of pale silver,
others in faint shades of gold or blue, as if the night sky itself had spilled onto the earth. The air here was different, warmer, more fragrant. The scent was sweet, but not overwhelming, like a lullaby for the senses. I inhaled slowly, and with every breath I felt lighter, calmer, as though the stars themselves were entering my lungs and soothing me from within. And then I was no longer alone.
At first, I thought the figure ahead was part of the garden, perhaps another tree bending low. But as I drew closer, I saw them clearly. A gentle caretaker, cloaked in robes woven from starlight. Their hair shimmered like strands of moonlight, and their eyes carried the calm of endless skies. They stood bent slightly forward, cradling something in their hands. As I approached, I saw what it was. A small star, dimmed and flickering, as though it had fallen from the heavens and lost its way. The caretaker knelt at the edge of a flower bed and pressed the star gently into the soil. At once, the ground pulsed with light, and a new bloom rose from the earth, its petals unfolding in a glow that grew brighter, steadier, more serene. The caretaker looked up at me then, smiling softly, as though they had been expecting me. Their voice, when they spoke, was low and melodic, carrying the hush of distant constellations. "Welcome, traveler. You've found the Garden of Stars." I nodded, unable to speak for a moment, my chest swelling with wonder. The caretaker extended a hand, and though I hesitated at first, I placed mine in theirs. Their touch was cool, like water, yet filled with a gentle strength. "Here," they continued, "we gather the fallen stars. Each one carries a dream, a wish whispered by someone who longed for peace. We plant them, nurture them, and let them bloom, so that dreams may grow and wanderers like you may rest among them." Their words seemed to echo in my mind, reverberating softly like the gentle toll of a distant bell. They guided me along the path, pointing out the different blooms. "These," they said, brushing a hand over blossoms of silver blue, "are dreams of journeys, paths yet to be walked, adventures yet to unfold." We moved onward. These golden ones, they gestured toward a cluster of flowers that glowed like tiny suns, are dreams of joy, of laughter shared and remembered. I leaned closer, listening. Each flower hummed faintly, its sound delicate as a sigh. I realized the caretaker was right. Every bloom was alive with a story, with fragments of someone's yearning, someone's hope. We stopped before a wide tree, its branches heavy with glowing blossoms. The caretaker rested a hand on its trunk, and "Here," they whispered, "are dreams of rest. When weary souls come to this garden, these blossoms watch over them. Their light eases burdens, so the mind may sink into calm. As they spoke, I felt the truth of it. My shoulders softened further, my arms hung loose at my sides, and a deep stillness began to spread within me. It was as if the tree itself had reached into my heart and coaxed it into quiet. The caretaker smiled gently. "Would you like to rest among them?" I nodded, though I was not yet ready to lie down. Instead, I wanted to see more, to linger in this wondrous place. The caretaker seemed to understand. They led me onward, their steps unhurried, matching my pace. Together, we walked in silence, letting the whispers of the flowers wash over us. I listened closely, and though I could not understand the words, I understood their meaning. Peace, ease, sleep, dream. The stars above shone brighter now, as though reflecting the blossoms below. The entire garden seemed to breathe as one, a living lullaby that flowed through me with every heartbeat. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep into my bones, that I was safe here. Safe, watched over, and gently guided. The caretaker led me along a winding trail where the air grew cooler, filled with the hush of water nearby. As we walked, the garden opened wider, and soon I found myself standing before the most breathtaking sight of all. A pond stretched out before us, still and glassy, yet glowing with its own inner light. It was as if the entire night sky had descended to rest upon its surface. Stars drifted lazily across the water, floating like lotus blossoms of silver and gold. Their reflections shimmered with every gentle ripple, painting the pond with endless constellations. I gasped softly, unable to look away. The beauty was not dazzling, but tender, calm, inviting. It felt as though the pond itself was breathing slowly, encouraging me to match its rhythm. The caretaker lowered themselves to the mossy bank and gestured for me to join. I sank down beside them, the grass soft beneath me, cool against my palms. Together, we gazed into the luminous water. "Here," the caretaker murmured, "is where the stars come to rest before they are planted. They drift upon the water, shedding their burdens until they are ready to bloom as dreams once more." Their voice blended seamlessly with the quiet trickle of water flowing from a hidden spring. The sound was hypnotic, like a lullaby woven of ripples and silence. I felt my chest rise and fall in time with it, my breaths deepening, slowing, carrying me further into ease. One of the stars floated near the bank, glowing faintly blue. I leaned forward, watching as it pulsed in gentle waves of light, as if it were breathing too. The caretaker touched the water lightly, sending ripples outward, and the star drifted closer. "Go on," they whispered. "Take it in your hands." For a moment, I hesitated, afraid such a fragile light might vanish at my touch. But when I reached into the cool water and cupped the glowing orb, it settled into my palms as though it had been waiting for me. The star was warm, softer than I expected, humming faintly like a heartbeat. Closing my eyes, I held it near my chest. At once a wave of calm spread through me, melting every last thread of tension. It was as if the star's light had seeped inside me, filling the quiet corners of my mind with peace. Images flickered gently behind my closed eyes. Fields of tall grass swaying in twilight, the hush of waves lapping on a silver shore, a night sky vast and eternal overhead. None of it was sharp or demanding. It was soft, dreamlike, more feeling than vision. The caretaker's voice came, low and soothing. "This one has chosen you. It carries rest, a dream of stillness. Keep it close, and it will ease you into sleep." I smiled faintly, my eyelids heavy, my body sinking deeper into the mossy ground. The star's hum aligned with my heartbeat, slower and slower, until it was a lull in itself. When I opened my eyes again, the star was gone, yet its warmth lingered in me. It had not disappeared, it had become part of me, planted within, a seed of dream, ready to bloom when I surrendered fully to sleep. The caretaker placed a hand upon my shoulder, light as air. They said, "The garden gives freely. Now, all that remains is for you to rest." I looked back at the pond. The drifting stars continued their silent dance, rippling gently, endlessly patient. I could have stayed there forever, watching their glow spread across the still waters, but I knew their purpose was not to be watched. It was to carry me inward into the embrace of slumber. I lay back upon the moss, the earth beneath me soft and cool. The pond shimmered at my side, stars floating quietly, their reflections casting a gentle light across my face. Above me, branches spread wide, and through their leaves I glimpsed the true stars, scattered across the velvet sky. The garden, the pond, the heavens, they all blended into one, as though there was no separation between earth and sky, dream and waking. The caretaker's voice came once more, distant now, like a whisper fading into the wind. "Sleep, traveler, the stars will keep watch." My breath deepened. My body grew heavy. The world blurred at the edges, dissolving into calm. And as I surrendered, I felt the garden cradle me, carrying me gently toward the quiet heart of dreams. The moss beneath me was softer than any bed, cool and steady, holding me as though it had been waiting. The warmth of the stardust still lingered in my chest, pulsing gently, matching the slow rhythm of my breath.
Around me, the garden swayed with quiet life. Blossoms glimmered faintly, their petals opening wider as though to watch over me. The pond whispered with ripples, each one carrying the light of drifting stars across its glassy surface. Above, the sky stretched endlessly, filled with constellations that seemed to lean closer, as if to cradle me too. I closed my eyes and let the stillness wrap around me. The caretaker's presence hovered near, though I did not need to see them. I felt their calm woven into the very air, their watchful care humming through the garden. Their voice came softly, like a breeze across the grass. Rest now, traveler. You have walked far enough. The garden will hold you, and the stars will keep you safe. The words melted into me, filling every corner of thought until there was no space left for worry. My shoulders loosened, my arms grew heavy, my breath drifted slower, slower still. The garden itself seemed to breathe with me. Each inhale pulled in the soft fragrance of the blossoms, sweet, delicate, laced with calm. Each exhale sent my weight deeper into the moss, as though the earth itself was welcoming me into its embrace. I felt myself slipping, not falling, but floating downward, like a leaf surrendering to the breeze. The whispers of the flowers rose around me, weaving into a lullaby I could not understand, yet somehow felt. Peace, rest, dream, sleep. The words, if they were words at all, brushed across my mind like feathers, tender and weightless. My body surrendered first, my fingers relaxed, my hands still upon the moss. My legs grew heavy, sinking into the coolness below. Even the gentle rise and fall of my chest felt distant, as though sleep had already claimed most of me. My mind followed slowly, drifting in that soft space between waking and dreaming. Images flickered, fields of silver grass, lanterns floating down a quiet river, the glow of stars blooming in the darkness. They shifted, merged, dissolved, until they became nothing more than light and warmth and stillness. I let go of them too. Somewhere nearby, the pond rippled once more, sending rings of silver across its surface. I heard it as though from a distance, already slipping into dream. The blossoms above closed gently, their glow dimming to match the rhythm of night. The caretaker's voice faded, not as a goodbye,
but as a blessing that echoed in my heart. Sleep well, the stars will guide you home. And so I sank into silence, into comfort, into the dream cradled within me. The garden held me, the stars watched over me, and the night carried me onward, deeper and deeper, until I was no longer walking, no longer watching, only resting, only